If you can hear this, count to 3 and turn the dial 1 notch left. If my voice is still here after that, you're on the right frequency. This is station 97.9 FM, the last beacon. My name is Thomas Rook. I'm on the second floor of a low red brick building above a shuttered pharmacy, 5 streets inland from the Harbor Road in Scarborough. It is 11 p.m. GMT. The rain is hitting the windows like a fist that won't give up. Wind keeps the gutter singing a dull note no one asked for. The temperature on the old outdoor sensor says 5 degrees, but it feels colder when the gusts find their way under the sill. I can't tell if the tremble in my hands is from the cold, or because I've been waiting all day to say this out loud without the line dropping. You have not imagined the last 48 hours. You're not going mad. Something is wrong over the water, and it's bigger than a bad storm. Stay with me. If the signal wobbles, tap the side of your set and roll the dial back to 97.9. If you're on a car radio, switch off AutoSeek. If you're on a cheap kitchen radio like mine, wedge a coin under the tuning knob so it doesn't drift. If you've got access to shortwave, park a backup on 5.450 megahertz. I'm bleeding a feed there as well, though the static there bites more than FM. If you only have your phone, I know mobile data is patchy tonight. Save power, dim the screen, and if the stream dies, try again on the hour. I'll be here as long as the generator runs and the antenna holds. You want the time and the weather because that's how we used to start, back when all this was routine. It's 2300 in Scarborough. The last Met Office update I could grab before the connection gave out showed a pressure drop over the North Sea, so sharp the map looked wrong, like someone had pulled a plug. The wind here is steady at 35 knots with stronger bursts that make the slates complain. The rain isn't falling so much as moving sideways. When the gusts hit, it has a sound like sheets tearing. The sea keeps throwing its voice inland, even from here. The breakwater groans. The drains are already past full. If you're on the east coast from Berwick down to Hull, you know what I'm saying. If you're in Whitby, you don't need me to tell you that the Abbey Cliff path is closed. If you're in Filey, you already heard the lifeboat siren and kept your doors shut because there's nothing to see but trouble and foam. Now for the part we're not used to saying out loud. The birds left. Not all at once, not like in a film, but they went. Yesterday afternoon, I stepped outside between showers to pull the rubbish bin back against the wall, and I noticed it first as a silence I couldn't place. No gulls, not one. No black shapes circling the pier. No sharp cries over the chip shop roof. I looked up and only saw rain and a bruise of cloud. Later, a delivery driver called in. First name Liam, I wrote it down. Said he was on the A64 near the Malton turnoff, and the verge that always has crows picking at crisp packets was empty. He'd never seen it empty. He said the sky looked like a lid, and I didn't know what to say. So I told him to keep both hands on the wheel and to call me when he made it back. He hasn't called back. At 1840, the BBC cut out mid-sentence. One of the London presenters, the one with the calm voice you trust when football gets heated, was reading a note about river levels, and then the line went dead. No apology. No, we'll be right back. Dead. After that, a loop of the emergency tone played for 30 seconds, then nothing. If you got a clean feed after that, I want to know what mast you're near. From what people are telling me, Radio 4 died first, then 5 Live, then the locals. The DAB multiplexes coughed and spat and then went to skeleton playlists like no one had hands on them anymore. If you're still getting something, write it down on paper before your battery dies. I'm keeping a log. At 1915, I managed to reach a friend of a friend at an office in Exeter. Someone who still has eyes on a satellite feed when the line behaves. I won't say his name, but he's smart and careful and never calls me unless there's a point. He said the cloud deck over the North Sea isn't moving like a normal system. The shape is circular, with an inner ring that's tighter than anything he's seen outside a textbook. He said, if you squint at the infrared overlay, there's a darker center like a pupil. He laughed after he said that, and not because it was funny, more because the right words sometimes won't come when your mind is trying to crawl away from them. He said, the lightning inside that inner circle is not random. It's blinking, he said. Not literally, Thomas. Don't make a thing of it on air, but the intervals are too tidy to be chance. I promised I wouldn't say that on air. I've already broken that promise because I think some of you need to hear it to stop thinking you're alone in hearing things. Earlier today at 10:20, an old fisherman named Ken came by. He's the sort who has a face like the cliff, worn and full of lines that tell you weather better than apps do. He sat in the side chair in the studio, looked at the stuck news page on my laptop like it was a painting, and told me that when he went down to check the boat at dawn, the water in the harbor didn't sit right. You know how seas have this old rhythm, a pull and push that even a child can feel if they stand still? He said the pull was away from the mouth of the harbor, like someone far out had taken a long, slow breath, and every rope on every boat went tight, then slack, then tight again. He said the ropes creaked like teeth in a dream. He said he didn't like the way the fog lay low, not moving even when wind cut across it. He said he could hear something under the hoot of the foghorn. Not a voice, not a song, just a pattern he couldn't name that made the back of his neck feel like it had a cold hand on it. He didn't stay long. He left a paper bag with 2 tins of beans and said, "Storm pantry," like it was a bad joke he wished he didn't have to make. Around noon, messages started coming in that were the same story told in different mouths. Heavy rain in Aberdeen and Stonehaven broke drains that have never minded a bit of weather. Roads that were safe last month had standing water up to the sills today by lunchtime. People in Montrose said the fog came in from the water thick as poured milk, and then stayed put, even when wind spun the flags in 2 directions at once. A mother in Peterhead told me her son's school let out early, not because of the rain, but because the head teacher said the radio was making a noise in the office that was bad for the children. She couldn't explain that last bit, and she didn't have to. Another man from Dundee said the Tay had a color he didn't have a word for. Not brown, not gray, something like metal when it's been at the bottom of a toolbox for years. I want to talk about the static, because those of you with old sets are hearing it the same way I am. It's not the usual snow when a tower goes offline. It's layered. If you turn the volume low and press your ear close, you'll hear bursts and rests like someone walking on gravel a long way away. It runs in groups of 3, then 5, then 3 again. I've counted it so many times I could draw it in my sleep. I thought I was losing it until an engineer from Hull called in and told me he'd run a quick log of amplitude spikes on his set. He said he didn't have the kit to do it right, but the pattern lined up with something he'd seen years ago when he was on a ship that tracked whales for a research group. Except whales don't sing on FM, he said. And then he tried to laugh, and it came out wrong. If you have a recorder, even a tape one, leave it near your radio and let it run. Later, if the power holds, you can listen for the pattern. If you have kids in the room, maybe don't. It's not a horror show, but it gets under the skin and makes sleep worse. You're going to ask about government lines. Between 1400 and 1600, I rang every number I've got from years of begging for quotes on floods and road salt and elections, The council office in town didn't pick up. The county line gave me a recording about higher than normal call volumes. The regional office for the Environment Agency put me on hold, and then the line dissolved into a long, wet hiss like rain inside a pipe. At 17:10, someone from the Met Office in Aberdeen answered on a line I didn't expect to work. She didn't give a name. She said the term they're using in-house for now is Tempest Aurelia. I asked if that was a joke. She said she didn't name it and didn't have time to argue. She said modeling is out of bounds because the inputs won't hold steady. She said the system keeps eating the data. Those were her words. I asked what we should tell people near the coast. She said, "Tell them to get higher than they think they need to be, and not just because of water." I started to ask what that meant, and the line fell silent like someone took the handset away and set it down on a desk. It didn't click. It just went to that dead space where you can hear your own heart louder than the phone. I don't want to scare anyone, but I won't lie to you. At 2000, a friend in London sent a text that looked like it clawed its way through a jammed pipe. It said, "Lights cut at 1952 in my block. Looked east, sky flashing, not random. Tube announcements looping, felt floor hum. Back soon," I wrote back, and didn't get blue ticks. If you're in London and you've still got power, drop me a note with your borough and the time. If you're in Scotland and you've heard the phrase breath of Ness today, call me when the wind lets you. I don't care if it's old myth or new nonsense. I care about the way it spreads. When old stories wake up on the lips of people who never used them, something is moving that doesn't care about our lights. I promised you practicals. The cupboard advice is dull, but it matters. If you're in a low place near a river or tidal flat, move up now while you can still see the step under your foot. Don't say you'll do it in the morning. Water doesn't care about your plan. Fill every bottle and pan you have now in case the treatment plants choke. If you've got a gas hob, keep one matchbox in a coat pocket in case you misplace the tin under stress. If you still have signal, text, don't call. The lines are tired. If you have to go out, take a torch and 2 spare batteries in a zip bag. If you live where the wind might take your roof, move to the center room with no windows and put a mattress against the door. If you have salt, yes, salt, table salt in a bag, keep it dry. I know that sounds like superstition. Maybe it is. Maybe it's just a way to make hands busy when the floor feels like a boat. I don't care which way you take it as long as you do something that makes it through tonight. Names. I'm going to say some names because that's how people become real again when the power goes out. Maggie L. from Whitby says her father's radio set is locked on 97.9 and won't move. She says the old man keeps tapping the side of the set with a butter knife when the static climbs like he did in '78 during the snow. John P. from Bridlington says the floodgate by the leisure center was closed before sunset, and yet the car park had water up to the wheel wells by 9. He says the gulls that used to shadow the bins behind the market are gone, and the bins stand too straight, like they're waiting for a roll they don't want. Nia from Skegness says the light beside her bed flickered at the same 3 count she heard in the radio static, and she doesn't scare easy, but that made her put her shoes on and keep a bag by the door. If you hear your name, it's because this is how we stay seen. If you haven't told anyone you're okay today, tell me now, and I'll tell the night. I can hear some of you thinking, what about the Navy? What about the RAF? What about all the big things behind the curtain that we never see, but tell ourselves will roll out when the sky goes a color we don't own? I don't have a statement. I have rumor, and a little more than rumor. Someone in Lossiemouth, no name, again, left me a message at 21:05 that cut in and out like breath. He said they'd scrambled earlier than the press would ever admit. He said the instruments on one of the flights didn't like looking east and developed a fault that didn't show itself when they turned west. He said the pilots joked about the storm having eyes. He didn't laugh. He said the base is on generator now, and if you live near there, you know the hum that means the grid is gone. He said he had to go because the room he was in didn't like phones. I listened to his message 4 times. On the 3rd, I heard another voice in the background ask, "Are you recording?" Then the line broke. It's easy to put this all in a box called fear and wait for morning. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm asking you to do 2 things. First, make a list on paper of 5 people who need to hear your voice. Not a text. Your voice. If you have enough charge and enough bars to call, ring one and tell them where you are and what you will do if the water rises or if the lights go. If you can't call, write their names and keep the paper in your pocket. When the hour turns, try again. Second, choose your high point now, not the idea of it. The actual stair you will climb to get there, the actual window you will not open no matter what you hear outside. If you live near a cliff, don't stand on the edge. The ground is tired. If you live on a hill, find the back room away from the wind-facing wall. If you live in a block, know your stairwell by touch. If you're in a terrace, make a plan with the house next door that doesn't involve shouting against wind. I know some of you are going to say, a storm is a storm, and we've had worse on paper. I've had the same thought and then looked at the map again. The center of this thing isn't moving. The pressure is dropping, like the map has a leak. The lightning inside the circle is too neat. The static on the radio counts itself like it's checking we're listening. The birds left for the fields and then kept going. People near Loch Ness said the wind carried a sound they didn't have a name for, a sound that made dogs low and press themselves under tables. I didn't plan to bring that up until later, but it belongs here. I got 3 letters today with the same line in them from 3 towns that don't share much except wet ground and a view of hills. The line was, "It's breathing." One of the letters had a coffee stain. One had a tear mark that dried to a pale line. One had a string of salt crystals caught in the fold, like someone had kept the letter near the stove while they were cooking, and then thought better of sending it, and then sent it anyway. You'll ask where faith fits in a night like this. I don't have a sermon. I have a kettle and a light that might go at any moment. I have a room that ticks and hums and drops into a hush that makes me want to fill it with anything but lies. I have a father in York who keeps a radio on his dresser and keeps the volume too low because he was in the army in his 20s and refuses to admit his hearing ever went. I have a brother in Leeds who likes to take the mick out of my voice on air, says I sound like I'm telling a bedtime story to a nation that forgot to put its phone down. I haven't heard from either of them in 6 hours. I have a feeling under my ribs that isn't panic anymore. It's something like resolve wearing a coat that doesn't quite fit yet. I'm not going to stop talking even if I want to, because I know for some of you, this is the only voice you can prove is real tonight. A woman named Ailsa from Inverness sent a voice note at 1933. The first 10 seconds were wind and breath and a small metallic rattle, like a spoon on a tin. Then her voice said, "It isn't the fog we know." She said the bridges on the back road looked wrong only when you got close, like a shape your eye agreed with from far away. But when you stood on it, the lines didn't meet. She said a fire crew went to check the far side because a call came in saying the span had cracked, and when they got there, there was no bridge to crack at all. It had never been built. Old locals argued in the rain, and said there used to be one in the 90s for logging, and another said no. You're thinking of the access track, and another said, I walked across it with my father when they closed the mill. Elsa said the fog moved like a thought, and when the wind rose, it didn't. She said she could hear something under the water that wasn't the usual wash. A slow pull, she said, like a chest that's too big to be a chest. Then the note ended with a soft sound I only noticed on the second listen, a handful of grain scattering. Maybe it was salt. I'm going to say a name I don't like. Tempest Aurelia. If you work in weather long enough, you meet names that live in filing cabinets. This one feels like it doesn't want a drawer. There's another name out there tonight moving from mouth to mouth, catching on the way wind catches a line. The old stories along the loch have a breath to them. I don't pretend to know that history. I know enough to see when a story wakes up because people need a shape to hang their fear on. If that shape helps you get up the stairs and check your torch, use it. If it makes you want to go down to the water to prove the story wrong, don't. I will take calls when the line holds, but for now, I'm going to read from the messages because they carry more weight than any headline I can craft. Howick, 2110, a man typed. Dogs won't settle. Not a bark, just low and stiff. Wife says she feels it in her fillings. Middlesbrough, 2022, a nurse wrote. Generator test went fine last week. Today it started without being told to. We let it run. Banff, 1855. Someone wrote with a hand that shook. Kettle whistled without boiling. I don't know what to do with that one. Maybe the power surge hit something strange in their flat. Maybe fear turns facts into edges we cut ourselves on when we try to hold them. Maybe we write them down anyway, not because we want to scare people, but because we need to map the night any way we can. If you're near a coast road, look out for fast water, where there wasn't any yesterday. If you drive through standing water, you're choosing a coin toss. Turn around. If you're on foot, carry a stick and test every step off the high street. If you're in a cottage that sits lower than the road, move your plug extensions up onto chairs. If you have a non-slip mat, use it. If you have a neighbor who lives alone, knock now, not after the midnight news that isn't coming. If you have a child who is asking why the lights are strange and why the radio sounds like sand, tell them that storms sometimes forget where to go, and we help each other remember. Don't talk about the sea breathing. That's for us to carry, not them. I'm thinking of a moment a few hours ago when I went down the stairs to the lane to shake blood back into my feet. The wind shoved rain under the hood of my coat like it had hands. Across the lane, a pub sign swung and hit its bracket with a hollow sound that used to mean closing time to me. The smell there wasn't anything you need to hear about. The sound you need to hear about was this. Nothing with wings. No quick shadows cutting the street lamp's cone. No gull laugh that used to annoy me when I tried to record a voiceover. Even the pigeons that creep under the eaves had gone quiet. When I came back up, the stair light flickered in that 353 pattern again. I stopped on the landing and said out loud to no one, I see you. I don't know who I was talking to. Maybe myself. Maybe the map. Maybe the thing that makes old myths travel fast. It doesn't matter. I came back to the mic because it's the only thing that feels like a job I can actually do now. If you have a radio with a frequency display, you may notice we're drifting a hair to 97.92 when the gusts hit the mast. That's normal for a tired rig in a bad blow. If you lose me, slow turn back and forth around 97.9 and you'll catch the voice. I'm also throwing a thin strand up to 1500 AM for the sets that only know how to hum. It won't be pretty there, It'll sound like talking from under a blanket, but ugly speech is better than a silent window. Before the hour turns, I want to tell you how this started for me, because these things don't just come out of nowhere. 2 nights ago, I had a late slot and was signing off at 1 in the morning when the weather was just boring rain that sounded like rain. A call came in from a man on a small boat off the coast near Hartlepool. He said his name was Cal. His voice had the ring that tells you he's not drunk, not trying to wind you up. He said he'd been out setting lines because the forecast had given him a small window and he needed the catch. He said the water under him felt taller than the night. That's what he said. Taller. I told him I didn't follow, and he said, "Okay, imagine a person asleep on their side under a sheet, breathing. Imagine you can't see the person, only the sheet move." He said the water was like that. I told him to come in. He said he already was because he didn't like the way his compass sat. Not wrong, just damp, like the needle had lost interest. The line went quiet but for wind, and then he said, "You hear that?" I didn't hear anything and said so. He said, 3, 5, 3. He counted them out for me. And then the call dropped, and the studio was suddenly so quiet I could hear the clock in the hall that never works ticking like it had remembered its job. I made a note on a yellow pad and went home and slept badly and woke up to the first gull-less morning I've ever known. This next bit is from a friend with a telescope and a camera and the habit of not claiming more than he can prove. He swears that if you look east from North Berwick with a long lens right before dusk, and you catch a lightning flash, for a half second the cloud bank is lit from the inside, and you can see curves that don't belong to cloud. He's not talking about dragons. He's talking about something too large to hold in your head all at once. He sent me 3 frames. 2 showed nothing but white and gray, and the smear of rain. 1 had a line in it that slants wrong for cloud. I would have binned it on another day. I saved it today because the space under my ribs told me to. I don't know what to do with it yet. That's okay. We don't need a neat drawer. We need to get through the night. If you're writing while I'm talking, good. Writing calms the part of the mind that wants to run to the window every time the wind hits the corner of the house. Make lists. Pack a small bag even if you think you won't need it. People in storms don't die because they packed a bag too early. They die because they waited for a sign written in neat letters. This night won't give you neat letters. It will give you knocked bins, lights that hum at the wrong rhythm, silence where birds used to be, and water that climbs a step you never saw it climb. Treat those as letters. Read them. Move. I keep wanting to tell you a joke to break the long stretch, but nothing sits right on the tongue. I could tell you the one about the man who took a torch up a hill and came down with a sunburn, but that's not tonight. Tonight is about names and steps, and the heavy feel in the pocket where your keys remind you there's still a door that opens if you turn the old brass just so. Tonight is about the way the city felt smaller at 1952, when the lights went in parts of London, and the sky had its own ideas about what to show. Tonight is about the word Aurelia, stuck to a wall, and the older word moving through kitchens on low voices, like the movement of a story that has waited too long and is done waiting. We are going to make it to the top of this hour. At midnight, I will read out river levels as far as I trust them. I will say again the roads you should not take and the hills that will save your shoes. I will read more names so you can hear your own voice in others and not feel like you're the last person awake. Between now and then, I need you to do these. Set aside water. Put one torch in a place you can reach in the dark with one hand. Put the radio where children can't pull it down. Write 5 names. Decide the stare. Lock your back door against the kind of curiosity that gets people drowned. Keep salt dry if you have it. If you pray, say a short one, and then get on with your hands. This is Thomas Rook, station 97.9 FM, the last beacon. It's still 11 p.m. GMT as I say this sentence. By the time the sentence ends, the minute will change, and everything will feel smaller and harder and possible all at once. If you're out there and you can hear me through the static that counts itself, turn your radio down just a hair and leave it on. If you must sleep, sleep in your boots. If you can't sleep, write. I'll be here. When the hand hits 12, I'll tell you what the tide did while you were making tea. If my voice thins, it's the wind. If it cuts out, wait 30 and turn the dial 1 notch left. We're not done. Not by a long way. It's 12:04 a.m. now. The hour rolled over while I was pouring what's left of the kettle into a chipped mug. The generator coughed once, then caught. The rain outside hasn't stopped, but it's quieter, like the storm is drawing breath again. Maybe you've felt it too. That long inhale the world takes right before it shows its teeth. I tried to raise the relay tower in Bridlington just before midnight. No answer. Not even the usual handshake signal. The console here shows static that drifts up and down like a slow heartbeat. The kind of pulse that isn't electrical. If you've ever worked near power lines, you know the hum. This isn't that. This hum has space in it, like there's air moving through metal. The fog rolled in about an hour ago. Thick, low, and wrong. I know how fog behaves. This one doesn't. It clings to the sides of buildings, folds around lampposts, and holds its shape. The air inside it looks darker than it should, as if the fog isn't blocking light, but swallowing it. The last car that passed the studio had its beams cut to ribbons before it reached the end of the street. When the driver got out, he didn't close the door. The engine's still running down there, a soft thrum under the wind. I got a call at 12:17 from an emergency operator in Inverurie. Said her shift supervisor sent a crew to check reports of a collapsed bridge over the Don. They never made it. The GPS trackers showed them turning off the main road, following a lane that doesn't exist on any map. The last transmission from their cab mic was a man saying, "It's just mist, keep going," and then a long dragging sound that no one could place. When they went to recover the vehicle, they found the truck lights still on, doors open, no footprints in or out. Messages keep coming in faster than I can read them. Someone in Fort William says the fog moved against the wind. Someone in Elgin says it carried sound from miles away. A low note, like a whale under the sea. A woman from Lossiemouth swears she heard something breathing through the pipes when she turned on her tap. Another listener from Largs sent me an audio clip that I don't want to play on air. It's 3 seconds long, recorded on her phone at the edge of her garden. You can hear wind, then something deeper, like a howl stretched too far, almost breaking. I listened once. That's enough. I've been reading the old forums, digging through archived threads from early weather researchers. There's a story from 1959, buried in a journal no one prints anymore, about a North Sea anomaly. Fishermen reported static strong enough to melt the filaments in their radios. One entry, written by a meteorologist named Holt, mentions sonar reflections that moved too slowly to be whales and too deep to be submarines. He drew a spiral, wide and crude, and wrote, "Breath cycle, 11 minutes." The file ends there. 11 minutes between inhaling and exhaling. That's the same rhythm as the pressure drops on tonight's charts. 12:30. I can see my breath inside the room now. The radiator's on, but the air feels hollow. My voice sounds like it's coming from further away than my mouth. The fog's right outside the glass. The streetlight across the road is gone, only a dull blur where it used to be. Every few seconds the glass trembles. It's not wind. It's too steady, too slow. I keep thinking about the name the locals gave it, the breath of Ness. It used to mean the soft mist that rolled over the loch in the morning, the kind that came before a good day's fishing. Somewhere along the years, it turned into a warning. Fishermen would whisper it when the fog lingered too long, or when nets came up torn. I used to laugh at that kind of talk. But tonight, the laughter's stuck somewhere between my chest and the mic. One more call before the line drops again. This one from a teacher in Oban. She said the children at her boarding house couldn't sleep because they heard waves inside the walls. She said she pressed her ear to the plaster and it sounded like breathing. She told them it was pipes expanding, but when she went outside to check, the sea was calm. The fog was breathing, she said. She started crying halfway through her sentence. Then the line went dead. I've opened the small window above the console, just an inch, to listen. There's a sound underneath everything else. It's not thunder. It's deeper. A long, low sound that you don't hear as much as you feel in your ribs. It comes and goes, each time a little louder. If you're still listening, turn down your lights. Keep one torch ready, but don't shine it out the window. The fog doesn't like light. I don't know how I know that, but I do. It's 12:44 a.m. The temperature just dropped 3 degrees in 10 minutes. Somewhere out there, the North Sea is moving in ways it shouldn't. I'll keep talking until the generator gives out or something bigger drowns me out. Stay on 97.9. If the frequency drifts, pull it back. The fog is everywhere now. If you hear something breathing near your walls, don't open the door. It isn't wind. If anyone's alive near Aberdeen, call me. I think the sea has found its voice. It's 1:13 a.m. now. The fog hasn't moved, not even a little. If you're near the coast, you already know what that means. The world outside your window looks smaller, like the sky has folded down and decided to sit on your roof. You can't see the next street. You can't see the lamppost you've seen every night for 10 years. All that's left is the sound. I don't even know if this microphone is still feeding through the tower, but I'll keep speaking until I can't. Every time I stop talking, the silence feels like it's leaning in. Something's changed with the wind. The gusts used to slam against the glass, but now they move in rhythm, like breathing. Slow, patient, cruel. A minute ago, the radio static pulsed again. 3 beats, then 5, then 3. But now there's a pause after each set, like it's waiting for something, like it's listening for a reply. London's gone dark. I've confirmed it through what's left of the network repeater logs. The capital lost main grid power at 12:58 a.m. Backup systems are running on minimal load, enough for emergency comms, but not the underground, not the hospitals, not the towers. If you're listening from south of Birmingham, you're hearing me through the auxiliary AM chain that skips across open frequencies when one fails. It's patchy, but it works. For now. Scotland has declared martial law. That came through from a field operator in Dundee before her line went down. She said they've cordoned off everything north of Stirling, and the army's moving people inland. The coastlines are considered unrecoverable zones, whatever that means. She mentioned something else, something I haven't been able to get out of my head. She said that during one of the rescue runs near Montrose, they caught something on sonar. A rhythmic echo under the water. Not random. A pattern that matched the 353 pulse. It started faint, then doubled back, like sonar being returned. Like something large was calling back. They've been picking up similar readings all across the coast. Rhythmic, pulsing, intelligent. The storm isn't just noise anymore. It's talking. The Army's calling it acoustic interference. I don't believe that. Because at 12:40, right before the London blackout, I heard the same rhythm through my own floor. The walls shook with it. Low, deep, steady. The kind of sound you feel before you hear. It came up through the concrete, through my boots, through the desk, through the mic. It's not the storm. It's something under it. I've had 3 different callers mention thunder that didn't sound like thunder. Mark from Newcastle said it was a howl rolling under the sea. Amira from Hull said it sounded alive. And someone from the Hebrides, didn't leave a name, said it wasn't thunder at all, but a voice stretched by the wind. There's a sound outside now. I'm not going to check the window again, but you can probably hear it faintly through the mic. It's like a scream being dragged through miles of fog. It rises, then cuts, like breath caught in a throat too large for lungs. At 1 a.m. sharp, all mobile networks in northern England flickered and dropped. The satellite feed over the North Sea froze, perfectly still, and then flashed once before going black. When it came back, the image wasn't moving anymore. The storm, Tempest Aurelia, they called it, has stopped rotating. It's just sitting there now, suspended over the country, lightning crawling inside it like veins. I've been watching that feed for hours, and I swear the shape has changed. It doesn't look like an eye anymore. It looks like something looking back. There's no official statement from Westminster. The Prime Minister hasn't been seen since yesterday morning. A few independent journalists tried broadcasting live updates, but their feeds keep cutting mid-sentence. One of them, a guy named Ethan Carr, managed to post a single message before vanishing. It's inside the storm. No one knows what it is, but I think we're starting to feel it now. A truck passed by the studio 15 minutes ago, heading inland. It had soldiers in the back. No lights, no plates, just dark shapes hunched under tarps. One of them was holding something against his ear. A field radio, I think, and I swear he looked up at my window and mouthed the word, "Run." But where do you run when the sea breathes? If you're inland, Leeds, Sheffield, Manchester, you still have power. For now. You've probably heard the howls by now, echoing across the hills. Don't go outside to look. Don't try to film it. Cameras can't capture sound that deep. All they'll show you is a blur of white light and rain moving backwards. A message just came through from a technician in York. Transmission interference frequency matches heartbeat range of large aquatic mammals. He underlined it twice, then added, "Except no heartbeat lasts 22 seconds. The fog is moving again. Not away. Up. I can't see the street anymore. The glow from the fog is turning pale green, like algae under ice. Every few seconds, it pulses. My window is rattling again. Not from wind, from something below. If you're still listening, write this down. The storm is not weather. The fog is not air. And the howls, they're not thunder. It's 1:38 a.m. If you can hear me, stay away from the coast. Stay away from water. And if you hear breathing in the walls, it's not your house settling. This is Thomas Rook, Station 97.9 FM, The Last Beacon. I'll stay on until the signal dies. Or I do. God help us. The storm is learning to speak. It's 2:06 a.m. The clock on the console flickers between digits like it's confused which minute it belongs to. The generator's fuel gauge is dipping close to empty. I can smell it now. Metallic and sharp, like rust on my hands. The fog hasn't lifted, but it's thinner here in places, like it's watching through gauze. I can see the glow of the street lamp again, but it's bent, like the light itself is trying to crawl away from what's outside. I've been trying to call out on the emergency band, 1 to 1.5 megahertz, but every transmission comes back with that same pulse underneath. 3, 5, 3. Silence, like a heartbeat inside the radio itself. When I switch to another channel, the pulse follows. I asked listeners earlier to write in what they had in their survival packs. You did. Hundreds of you. And I'm going to read them now, because names mean something when everything else starts to vanish. From Lincolnshire. 3 candles, 1 lighter, a tin of beans, 1 photo of my daughter. She's 6. I don't know if she's listening, but if you are, sweetheart, Mummy's keeping the light on. From Dumfries. 2 cans of lager, a flask of tea, and a Bible. Not much else left, but I'm still here. From Norwich. A silver cross. Matches. A cracked phone that still shows pictures. Salt. That word keeps coming up. Salt. I don't know who started it, but every second message has it now. Some say they've drawn lines of it along door frames. Others have poured it across thresholds, windowsills, even car dashboards. They say it stops the fog from sticking to the glass. I haven't seen proof of that, but I haven't had the courage to scrape mine clean either. From Leeds. 2 torches, spare batteries, bread, a bottle of whiskey, and 1 old radio. It only catches your station, Thomas. Please keep talking. I'm trying. From Kirkwall. Nothing fancy. Just candles, salt, and hope. Hope. That's the first time anyone's written that word tonight. The fog's breathing again. You can hear it in the pauses between my words, that soft swell, like air being pulled through waterlogged lungs. The sound is everywhere, filling the cracks between moments. Sometimes it feels like it's inside me, too. Like when I take a breath, the room listens. At 1:58 a.m., another signal broke through the static. It wasn't my voice. It wasn't human. It came through clear enough to make my skin crawl. The voice said, "Stay inland. The tide is hungry." Then it cut out. No reverb, no distortion. Just gone. I thought maybe it was an echo from another broadcaster, but I checked every active frequency left on the board. Nothing. Every single one is either dead air or noise. So where did the voice come from? The fog has started whispering now. Not loud enough to understand, but you can tell its language. You can tell it means something. Like wind through reeds, except it has rhythm. And every so often, if you really listen, you can hear your own name threaded in. A fisherman from Cromer texted me before his line went dead. The sea's not rising. It's rolling, like it's breathing beneath us. I don't think we're facing a storm anymore. I think we're standing inside something that remembers how to be alive. I just switched to a backup radio with an older analog dial. The reception is rough, but something strange happened. It tuned itself 1 point lower. Just 1. When I tried to pull it back to 97.9, it resisted. Like the knob was being turned from the inside. The needle stopped dead at 97.8 and wouldn't move. Then I heard it again. The same voice, quieter this time. It said, "Don't speak the old name. It's awake." Then the radio bled into silence. I don't know who or what that was, but my hands are shaking. I can't tell if it's from fear or from something else that's starting to grow in the silence between the static. Messages keep pouring in, so I'm going to keep reading them, because as long as I do, this signal still belongs to us. From Carlisle, I put salt by the door. It hissed. From Glasgow, the rain's coming down sideways. The fog isn't moving. It's waiting. I can hear something big in the river. From Manchester, we can see lightning above the clouds, but there's no thunder anymore. Just a low hum that makes the glass buzz. From Inverness, I saw lights under the water. They're not boats. They're too deep and too still. From Bristol, I don't pray much, but I'm praying now. It's 2:31 a.m. If you can hear me, write this down. Don't open the door if you hear knocking. Don't trust voices that sound like yours. Keep your salt dry. The fog is pressing against the window now. It's not condensation. It's movement. You can see fingerprints forming and sliding away. Not mine. Something outside trying to remember how to touch. And the whispers back. This time, it's using my name. I can hear it behind me. Through the radio. Through the static. Through the floorboards. It says, Thomas. The tide remembers. This is still station 97.9 FM. The last beacon. I'm not sure who else is left to listen, but if you are, stay inland, keep the lights low, and keep listening. The fog is learning to breathe like us. It's 3:04 a.m. The power in the building went out 15 minutes ago. I'm running on the small diesel tank that used to feed the freezer downstairs. The room smells like metal and breath. Every surface hums, just enough to make my teeth ache. The fog pressed through the crack in the window frame earlier. It didn't pour in. It drifted, slow and careful, like smoke that knows where it's going. I sealed the gap with duct tape and salt. I don't know if either helps, but the air's clearer now, less heavy. Outside, the rain has stopped. I can't decide if that's better or worse. The silence feels wrong. From the roof earlier, I could see the sky, if you can call it that. The storm isn't moving anymore. The satellites confirm it. Tempest Aurelia, the maps still say, but the swirl is frozen right over the British Isles. It's not a spiral now. It's a circle. Perfect. Still. Alive. Every few minutes, lightning flares inside it, and the clouds light up from below, like something underneath is breathing light upward through the water. At 2:40, an engineer from Glasgow University sent me what might be the last image we'll get from orbit. The storm's center is no longer cloud. It's hollow. A pit of pure darkness surrounded by a rim of gold light, pulsing like a heartbeat. When the flash came, you could see outlines, long, winding shapes beneath the atmosphere, thicker than mountains. They looked like ribs or coils. If that's the sea creature of myth, it isn't sleeping anymore. Every transmission tower north of Manchester is now offline. The government hasn't released a statement, but a leaked memo from the Ministry of Defense reached me through a private relay an hour ago. The subject line was a single phrase: phenomenon classified as sentient weather mass. Refrain from verbal identification. So it has a mind, or something that acts like one. People have stopped describing the fog as fog. The reports call it skin. They say it clings to the earth in sheets, pulsing with the same rhythm as the lightning. I can see that from here too. Every pulse matches the flicker in the static on my console. The storm's heartbeat has synced with our machines. I just played back part of the signal recording from earlier. There's a hidden layer underneath the static. If you slow it down, it forms words. Not spoken words. Shapes that sound like breath forced through metal. But if you listen long enough, they start to sound like English. Like something trying to learn how to speak. It's saying, return the breath. Whatever's above us, it's not just weather, not just myth. It's something older. Something that thinks in tides and lungs and pressure. A survivor named Graham from near Sunderland sent a voice message just before his line died. He said the storm wasn't breaking things anymore. It was building. He saw parts of it twist into towers of water that stayed standing even after the lightning faded. They looked like ribs, he said. Like it's remaking the coast into its own body. I don't know how to explain that, but I believe him. Because when I looked out my window 5 minutes ago, the seawall wasn't there anymore. The whole street below me is gone. Just water. And in that water, reflections of lights that don't belong to anything human. The phone on the desk has been ringing every few minutes, even though the network's down. When I pick it up, all I hear is wind and something behind it, moving slow. The last time, a voice whispered, "You kept talking. We heard you." The eye of the storm is directly over Britain now. Not moving, not growing, just breathing. Every pulse shakes the air like a low drumbeat. If you're still out there, anywhere inland, anywhere with shelter, don't go to higher ground anymore. The light is falling from above now, not rising from the sea. The clouds are splitting, and what's inside them isn't sky. The fog outside my window is glowing from within. Shapes move in it, slow, sinuous. Sometimes they look like hands. Sometimes they look like the outlines of faces pressed against glass, too wide to be human. They don't linger. They just slide past like they're waiting for something. I think I know what they're waiting for. I've been hearing whispers through the static all night, but now they're clearer. They keep saying the same thing over and over, like a prayer reversed. Hold fast to the cliffs. Maybe that's a warning. Maybe that's all that's left of the people who were taken. Or maybe it's the sea itself talking through the mouths of the drowned. The lightning just hit again, straight up, not down. The sky is flashing from below. For a second, the whole country must have seen it. A shape in the clouds twisting, massive, serpentine. It moved once, slowly, deliberately. Then the light went out, and all that's left is this faint pulse in the air. If this is the end of the broadcast, if the power fails before I can say anything else, remember this. It wasn't a storm. It was a breath. And now that it's awake, it's inhaling. This is Thomas Rook, station 97.9 FM. The last beacon. If anyone can hear me, hold fast to the cliffs. The old gods are waking. It's 3:49 a.m. The world outside my window is the color of bruise water. The street below, the one I used to walk to the bakery on, is gone. Just a faint shimmer where asphalt should be, as if the sea itself borrowed the shape of a road and never gave it back. The fog moves like a creature testing the limits of its body. When it drifts against the window pane, it presses, withdraws, and presses again. Each push is in time with that pulse from the storm. 3, 5, 3, and my chest follows without meaning to. Every clock I own has stopped on different minutes. The wall clock says 3:12. The one on the mixer says 3:33. My wristwatch flickers between 3:47 and 3:48. Time feels like it's crawling in circles, tripping over itself. I've read that pressure changes can affect the inner ear, can make you lose your sense of balance and rhythm. But this isn't dizziness. This is like the world can't make up its mind whether it's night or the memory of night. I found a note taped to the back door downstairs when I went to check the generator fuel. Just a scrap of cardboard with handwriting that wasn't there before. Don't let it hear you breathe. I don't know who left it. There's no one left in the building. The other tenants left before midnight. The laundrette next door is dark except for one machine still turning with nothing in it. When I came back up, the radio hissed. Not the usual static, something slower, deeper, with a rhythm like speech through water. I turned the volume down, but it kept getting louder. I swear I heard my own voice come through it. Thomas, stop. Just that. Over and over. My own voice, but slower. Every few minutes I get fragments of other people's broadcasts bleeding in. Maybe survivors. Maybe echoes. Hard to tell anymore. One voice, shaky and small, said, "If anyone in the Midlands can hear this, the rivers are climbing the wrong way. They're flowing uphill." Another said, "Something big is moving under the Severn. The bridges are gone. The water glows at night." And then a third one, older, trembling. "The fog isn't fog. It's the inside of something." I think they were right. I stepped onto the roof just before starting this segment. The sky has an opening now, right above the storm's eye. It's not light, it's absence. Like something is pulling the color out of everything it touches. Around the edge, the clouds glow faint gold, pulsing in slow waves that roll from Cornwall to Orkney. If you squint, you can see lines, curves, arches, shapes that feel alive even though they move too slow for sight. The lightning doesn't strike anymore. It lingers, crawling like nerves across skin. I can't tell if we're inside the storm now, or if the storm became the sky. Messages keep coming through, most of them fragments, some of them written like prayers. I'm going to read them, because silence feels like permission for the dark to move closer. From Nottingham, the rain stopped, but the ground still ripples. My neighbor's shed sank without a sound. From Edinburgh, the military convoy turned back. The road dissolved under them. They said the asphalt was breathing. From Cardiff, the power lines hum the same rhythm as your broadcast. Are we inside it now? From Belfast, people keep saying they can hear their mothers calling from the fog. They sound close, too close. From York, the cathedral bells rang on their own. 13 times. There's no one left to pull the ropes. When I read these, I feel like I'm reading a eulogy in pieces. Something keeps tapping against the studio door. Not hard, just a gentle knock, spaced perfectly in that 3-5-3 pattern. When I open the mic and talk louder, it stops. When I go quiet, it starts again. I'm not going to check. Whatever's outside already knows I'm here. I tried turning the transmitter off for 5 minutes to conserve fuel. The silence was unbearable. It wasn't silent. You could hear breathing through the walls, and the floorboards started to tremble, as if something below wanted the sound back. So I turned everything on again. The hum of the console keeps it away. For now. Earlier, I played back the recording of the storm's pulse, slowed to half speed. There's something underneath it, low, tonal, almost melodic. If you map the frequencies, they form a pattern close to sonar, but with irregular intervals. It's not random. It's structured, deliberate, purposeful. If I'm right, it's communication. And it's not coming from above. It's coming from below. I can't shake the feeling that this thing, this living storm, this breath wrapped around the country, isn't destroying us. It's remembering us. Like the sea has decided to reclaim its voice, and we're the echoes it's using to learn. A child's voice came through on the secondary channel about 10 minutes ago. Clear, calm, barely louder than the static. It's okay. The water doesn't hurt anymore. I don't know if that was a recording, or if some child is actually speaking through the fog. But I've heard that voice before. I think she was in one of the earlier calls. Maggie's daughter from Lincolnshire. Her mother's message is still on my desk. If you're still alive out there, stay away from reflections. That's not superstition. The fog reflects sound, not light. When it gets close, it starts mimicking your voice. If you hear yourself calling from another room, don't answer. It's 4:22 a.m. The storm's pulse is syncing with my heart rate now. I can feel it behind my ribs. 3, 5, 3. It's almost comforting in a way, like falling asleep beside something vast that remembers you. I keep thinking about the old name the locals used, the breath of Ness. Maybe that's what all of this is. Maybe this isn't punishment or wrath. Maybe it's memory. Maybe the sea never forgot that it once owned the air too. I just got a final text from the technician in York before the grid fell for good. It only said one thing. The sky's eye is open. That's the last message I'll ever get from him. Through the window now, I can see it. The center of the storm above Britain. It's not cloud anymore. It's shape. It has depth, and the light within it rolls like an animal turning in its sleep. Every time it flashes, you can see outlines, long arcs curving across the whole horizon. It's not a storm anymore. It's awake. The radio signal's fading. If it cuts, this will be my sign-off. This is Thomas Rook, station 97.9 FM, the last beacon. If you're still alive, hold fast to whatever ground you have left. Don't speak its name. Don't look into the light. And if you hear breathing in the dark, breathe slower. It's listening for us now. It's 5:01 a.m. There's no dawn. The storm has eaten the sun. What light remains is borrowed. Thin, colorless, flickering from the clouds like lightning, learning to imitate morning. The fog's inside the building now. It seeps through the floorboards, not as mist, but as veins of damp air curling upward. When it brushes my hands, it feels warm, like skin. The generator coughed twice and went silent. I'm on the emergency hand crank now, just enough power to push voice over static. I don't know if it'll reach anyone. Maybe I'm just talking into the storm's lungs. Something's changed in the static. The rhythm's slower. 3, 5. 3 has become 1. Pause. 1. Like it's waiting for a reply. Maybe that's what it wanted all along. To hear itself echoed back. The last signal relay from Manchester failed 20 minutes ago. Every major transmitter south of Birmingham is gone. The air traffic grid collapsed with it. The radar network went blind, and then the skies filled with lights that weren't aircraft. They hover above the storm line, still and bright, like lanterns beneath water. A man from Cornwall called in just before the phone lines died completely. His name was Adam. He said he climbed to a cliff near Porthleven to record the lightning. When he looked out over the sea, he saw the clouds spiraling downward, not up. "It's like a drain," he said, "like the sky's emptying itself into the water." Then he said, something looked back. And then, nothing. I've stopped hearing thunder. The storm doesn't need it anymore. It speaks through pressure, through bone, through every hollow place in the country. The fog hums with it. The walls of this room vibrate softly, keeping time with a pulse older than language. I'm trying to stay steady, to keep reading, but my voice keeps dropping into whispers without meaning to. The air is heavy. Every breath feels like I'm stealing from something else. People used to say that the sea has moods, that it sleeps, wakes, hungers, forgives. I think maybe it remembers too. It remembers the weight of us, ships, nets, cables, concrete, and it's exhaling everything it ever swallowed. I can still read the old logs, the early recordings from fishermen before this began. They're clearer now, like the static itself is replaying them for me. "Breathing under the hull," one said. "The nets came back heavy with nothing," another said. "The fog moves like thought," a third. If that's true, then maybe this isn't death. Maybe it's memory. The world remembering what it used to be when it didn't have names for itself. Outside, the street is gone completely. The water has risen halfway up the building. The fog glows from beneath, not above. Every few seconds, the light pulses brighter, and I see shapes under the surface. Curved, immense, layered like muscle. When the light hits right, I swear it looks like something breathing through the city, as if Britain itself has become part of its body. I can hear faint voices through the static again. They're not clear. They're fragments of everyone I've read tonight. Maggie, the teacher from Oban, the fisherman. They all whisper the same line together now. Don't let it hear you breathe. It's 5:29. The room feels smaller. My heartbeat has synced to the storm. I can feel it in the microphone stand, in the chair, in the glass. When I speak, the echo doesn't come from the walls anymore. It comes from the fog. I'm going to keep broadcasting until this voice belongs to something larger than me. If the storm wants breath, it can have mine. If you're still alive, still inland, still somewhere with walls that hold, light one candle, not for prayer, just for sound. The flame hums too. It keeps the silence honest. I don't know if anyone will find these tapes when it's over, but if they do, remember, we didn't go quietly. We spoke until the storm learned to listen. This is Thomas Rook, station 97.9 FM, the last beacon. If anyone can still hear me, breathe slow. The sea is listening. The sky is answering. And somewhere above this broken country, the old gods have opened their eyes.